Hello, welcome ladies and gentlemen to the group exhibit Hydrogen Fuel Cells and Batteries here at the Hannover Fairground in 2018. I invite you all to sit down here, order a drink and enjoy the next interview. My name is Falco Haag and I will lead you the next 20 minutes through our following talk. And our interview partner will be Mr. Michael Schaarschmidt from Zukunft ERDGAS e.V., the industry network of gas and manufacturing companies. And in the IBZ, he is head of product management. Mr. Schaarschmidt will now speak with us about the realignment of the organization of the IBZ for the further commercialization of CHP fuel cells in households. Please welcome with me Mr. Schaarschmidt. Yeah. Have a seat. And to the audience, if you have any specific questions during our talk, just raise your hand and join the discussion. All right, at first, looking to Zukunft ERDGAS e.V., can you tell us what stands it for, what are the aims, and what are the services for its members?
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk about natural gas and fuel cell systems for the heating market. Zukunft ERDGAS is an association representing the German gas industry. So we have partners from sales activities, from the sourcing activities, but also grid operators. Next to the gas industry, we also represent the manufacturers of the heating devices, but also the OEMs for vehicles. And of course, our general goal is to strengthen our market share in the heating market on the one side, on the other side, to increase the market share, of course, in the fuel market, which highly depends on oil right now. This is our major goal.
Okay, thank you. And can you shortly describe the role of natural gas in Germany and which goals does the government set?
Yes. The heating market is pretty well developed right now. So we have about 50% of all flats and buildings are heated by natural gas in Germany. So it's, let's say, the mass market for natural gas. The supply is pretty good. We have about 500,000 kilometers of natural gas grid in Germany and a lot of LNG import terminals along the European coastlines. So the supply is well developed. And on the other hand, the fuel market, as I mentioned, has a huge potential to gain market share from the oil. The national government's goals are to reduce CO2 emissions by 20% in 2020 compared to 1990 and minus 80 to 95% in 2050. So up to date, we will not meet the 2020 target. 20% will not be met. It's only about 40%. Even so, we have our German Energiewende, and we think, as our name is Zukunft ERDGAS, future natural gas, translated to English, is that natural gas is not just a fossil fuel like coal or oil. It can be a partner of renewable energy. I will explain it later why. And I think we have good solutions together with the manufacturers to achieve those set goals.
Okay, so it seems to be a long distance until reaching the goals. You already mentioned that you concentrate on the heating sector also. Why do you think the heating sector is a crucial factor in connection to these goals?
So the heating sector represents 50% of the energy consumption in Germany, next to the electricity market and the fuel market on the other side. If you roughly calculate the installed heating systems we have in Germany, we have about 21 million devices installed in buildings. And roughly 2/3 of them is not state of the art. So a lot of them are based on oil and old non-condensed gas boilers. If we would replace this 2/3 of these heating systems by state-of-the-art technology like fuel cell heatings, we would reduce our energy consumption by up to 15% right away. So would be a very cost-efficient strategy to achieve at least partly our set CO2 targets.
Okay, good to understand how it works together. Now let's come to the IBZ. When was it founded and what were its tasks at the start?
The IBZ is an initiative which is called Initiative Brennstoffzelle, Initiatives for Fuel Cell Heating Devices. It was founded about 19 years ago already by a couple of gas suppliers and the major manufacturers like Fissmann, Weiland, Bosch, and the smaller ones like Solid Power and Elcor. The major goal was to bring the technology to maturity, first of all, which has been proven right now, and on the other side, to create awareness towards politicians about the potential to reduce CO2 reductions, about efficiency, and the major goal was to initiate a public funding program by the German government. And this goal has been achieved in September 2016. So when the so-called KfW program was launched to support the acquisition of such a heating system.
Mm-hmm. So 1.5 years ago, the so-called goal of the IBZ, or one big milestone was reached. You say now the further commercialization requires a realignment of the organization. What exactly do you mean with that? And how does the organization IBZ meanwhile look like?
So when the funding program was launched nearly 2 years ago, we saw that it was very good accepted by the market. So the sales figures grow, or are still growing, of course. But on the other hand, we realized we need to foster and to strengthen the marketing and communication activities. And on the other hand, this funding program will be stopped at the end of this year, shortly after not even 2 years of period. So we try to extend this program together with the German government.
Sure.
And we are hopeful that we will achieve this goal. However, we have to accept that the funding will be declined year by year, the financial support. This is the other focus, and the other focus is to increase the awareness towards the politicians, but also by the craftsmen who have the direct contact to the customers and to have the activity or the possibility to sell these devices and not only to sell conventional heat systems.
Okay, that sounds not so easy for you, of course, when the funding is then is breaking down again to zero. Let's talk a little bit of the CHP fuel cells now. When did the system? No, I mean, what is the estimated the estimation of the sales units to reach market maturity?
Before I will answer this question, I will add something to the other one. Nowadays, the IBZ is organized by 3 associations which represent the complement products. On the other hand, we have the BDH, which is the German Bundesverband der Heizungsindustrie, BDH, representing the manufacturers. And on the other side, it's Zukunft ERDGAS, representing the gas industry. And we have support from the NOW, initiative, national organization for hydrogen and fuel cells, which have a very good contact to the German government. So these three partners are these who push this technology towards all different stakeholders which have contact to it. So let's get back to the maturity figures. If you keep in mind that we have in Germany a market of about 700,000 heating devices which are sold every year, about 76% are based on natural gas. So a pretty high proportion. However, we only sold 1,500 fuel cells last year, which was our goal, which we set for the last year. This year we want to achieve 3,500. And we saw in Japan that if you have enough funding for at least a period of 5 years, you will be able to manage to sell more than about 20,000 of these devices every year. And I think this would be a figure where you can say that you can achieve enough economies of scale to reduce the production costs and become more competitive in contrast to other established technologies. This is at least the market for Germany.
So the funded heating fuel cells were last year 1,500, and you hope that it will be this year 3,500. So
exactly.
All in all, 5,000. Do you think you will reach the goal this year?
I think so, yes. I'm very hopeful about this because just in 1 year ago, this funding program was increased to fund heating the fuel cells for living buildings, so for industry purposes, for instance. And therefore, I think the market potential increased, and I think we will achieve those 3,500 this year.
Okay, so now some offices will also be equipped with the fuel cells, heating devices.
Yes, we have pretty good examples, like car dealers, for instance, which use these kind of systems, which is a good deal compared with costs and efficiency.
Great. And what are the aims and the main activities in the IBZ now? I mean, is it more distribution and marketing, or is it to bring the funding to a bigger level then?
Both, actually. It's lobbying to extend the funding program on the one side, but on the other side we need to increase the awareness about this technology, especially towards the politicians which only focus on electric heat pumps, especially for the new buildings. But in Germany, it is more or less mature. The market is built, and you cannot easily replace an old oil heating device by an electric heat pump in an existing building. So therefore, gas technology is a more appropriate possibility, and in this case, it's easier to install such a fuel cell heating instead of a electric heat pump.
Okay, I understand. By the way, in the audience, is there any questions? Okay, I have some questions left. My latest information about gas feed CHP is an overall efficiency of 80 to 90% if you look on the electrical plus thermal efficiency. What is the difference to fuel cells now? Can you compare, for example, the electrical efficiency?
The electric efficiency is up to 60% similar. And if you take the overall efficiency, you have about 80 to 90% as well. So in contrast to biomethane plants, normally you have a demand for the heat. In contrast to the biomethane upgrading plants, you do not have a demand for heat, and that's the problem of the decentralized biomethane production.
Okay, so we will get much more out of our basic fuel, much more electricity, and as an end consumer, this electricity is more expensive if you have to buy it. Now, do you see some challenges to increase the market share of this innovative technology that is not only by funding, but maybe also some development steps?
Yes, as I already mentioned, one crucial barrier from our point of view are the craftsmen. So these guys who are having direct contact to our customers, who advise them when they have demand, and it's always easier to sell a conventional heating system than to sell a system which you have to explain, where you have some kind of administrative burden during the operation and before the acquisition of it. And especially in Germany, the order books are pretty well filled, and therefore they do not really have an incentive to deal with this innovative technology. And this is one of our goals, to motivate them and to bring them in action to also consider this kind of technology.
All right, great. And can you maybe give a personal view? What do you expect from our exhibitors here today in the audience? How to contribute to the whole development?
So in general, we need as much support as possible. So if anybody of you is engaged in Germany somehow in the heating market, either as a manufacturer or in the gas industry, everybody is highly welcome to support us as long as you are a member in one of our 3 organizations.
Okay, thank you. I think this is a nice closing for this interview. Thanks a lot for the interview. You can find Michael Schaarschmidt from Zukunft ERDGAS e.V. At the booth of NOW, just behind there. Yeah, and thank you very much for your attendance here in the audience, and thanks to Michael Schaarschmidt.
Thank you.